Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time we're going to look at online image editors, and specifically Pixlr, Canva, Photopea, Adobe Express and Photoshop on the web. These will be assessing to see if they offer true Photoshop functionality, including the ability to work with layers, text and PSD files. So let's go and get started. Right, here we are on the website for Pixlr, a great online image editor. And I'll press F11 to maximize our screen estate. The application can be used for free or with a subscription if you want to get rid of the advertising and use lots of AI credits, which you can use to do all kinds of exciting AI things. We're not going to play with those though, I don't tend to use that type of stuff, and so we're going to go directly to the main Pixlr Advanced Photo Editor, which you can use for free without creating an account. So let's create a new image. Here we go, we'll use the default of 1920 by 1080, and here we are in the Pixlr editor, which has got a very Photoshop feel. It's got in the free version a bit of advertising down here on the right. I'll just blank that out. And as we can see, a new image is created to be entirely transparent. So let's just drop something into it. Let's use, for example, the gradient tool and just do a little gradient like that. Looks a bit Ubuntu-like, doesn't it? And let's just scribble on it. Let's just take a brush from over here. Lots and lots of brush settings. Let's just make it a bit bigger, perhaps, be very exciting. Oh, massive brush. We'll give it a color. We'll make it, for example, white, like that. And we'll scribble on another layer. So we'll add a layer like this, another empty layer. There we go. And we'll scribble like that. And we're starting to create something very exciting in Pixlr. And as it's on another layer, we can turn it on and off if we wish to. We can also change things like its opacity, go down there, make it less visible if we wanted to. And we can also add various effects here, which here are in filter. We can, for example, do a drop shadow like that. And let's again just take the default. As I hope you can see, Pixlr is a very nice little package. We can also load in existing images. Let's just open a test image I've got somewhere in pictures. Here it is, a picture of a bee. Always good to have a picture of a bee. And if we go to adjustment, we've got all the standard adjustments here, brightness and contrast. We can play with levels, for example. I'm always playing with levels. No need to here because the image is pretty good as we start, but we could mess it up a bit like that if we wanted to. And we can always see where we've come from by clicking on the little control down there. But if we wanted to keep this now oversaturated image, we could go to File and either export very rapidly a PNG of the whole image or just of the particular layer, or we can go to Save and save either as a JPEG, a PNG file, a WebP, a PDF, or in Pixlr's native PXZ format. However, what's noticeable here by its absence is the PSD, the Photoshop document format. And this gets us to the subject of what Photoshop Alternative means when we're evaluating image editing applications. Does it mean a program that can do some of the things that Photoshop can do, in which case Windows Paint is a Photoshop alternative, or does it mean an application that can directly substitute for Photoshop, including working with existing Photoshop files? And for me at least, the Photoshop alternative must be able to do this if it's going to be a working creative tool. And so, in this video, we're going to try loading a test PSD file. And to see what this is, let's go across to Photoshop itself. This is Photoshop 2024, where we're going to load in our test file, which is a recent Explaining Computers thumbnail. And as we can see, this is a multi-layer document, lots of layers going on here. I always experiment with different things. I'm doing thumbnails. As you can see, lots of things I can turn on and turn off. But the key thing here in terms of this being a test file is that we've got some text in this PSD, and we've also got some layer effects. So for example, we've got a stroke here on the SSD elements. So now that we've looked at our test file in Photoshop itself, let's return to Pixlr. Here we are, and load in the test file here. We'll just do a new open image like that, and in pictures, there's the file. Let's bring it in. And there we are. And it isn't exactly looking exactly the same as it looks in Photoshop. This is what it looked like in Photoshop. This is what it looks like when it comes into Pixlr. And so we can see specifically the text has not come through accurately. Colors have changed because I think there was a colorize effect applied there in Photoshop, a mask hasn't come through, and we haven't got the stroke on the elements. And I'm sure we could make a thumbnail that looks exactly the same here in Pixlr, but it certainly isn't the case that Pixlr is a direct substitute for Photoshop. Now, just before we move on to look at our second contender, I'm sure some of you are thinking, why not just use GIMP? You don't have to use these online image editors if you want a Photoshop alternative. You can use GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program. And indeed, I'm currently running GIMP 2.99.18, which is the latest development version of GIMP before we get GIMP 3.0 very soon. It's going to be very exciting. I will be reviewing GIMP 3.0 on the channel when it comes out. But I do want to show you that GIMP 3.0, which will be very close to what we've got here, also isn't a direct substitute for Photoshop, as we can see if we load in our test file here. So let's just do that. If I can get it right, there we are, and here's our test file. And oh look, it comes up with a compatibility notice, telling us that the PSD file contains features that are not yet fully supported in GIMP. Specifically, the text layers are going to be rasterized, there won't be editable text, and some of the layer effects are not yet supported. So if we click to open the document, we have a similar kind of problem to what we just saw in Pixlr. We have got the text looking right, but the text here is actually just a bitmap. We can't edit that text, and we haven't got our layer effect. And so, whilst GIMP is a fantastic free image editing program, one of the key reasons that I'm looking myself for an online Photoshop alternative is because of the limitations in GIMP when handling PSD files. Right, having established what we're doing, let's move on to Canva. This is an incredibly popular set of online design utilities, if not really a Photoshop alternative. But I've included it in this video because if it wasn't here, I'd have spent the rest of eternity answering comments asking, what about Canva? To use the software, you have to create an account or to share your login from the social media platform, and there are both free and paid versions available. Although here, we're going to just use the free version, where we can create a design by clicking on Create a Design. What a surprise, where we can import files, as we'll see in a second. We can produce something of a custom size, or we can use a preset such as YouTube thumbnail. And from here, everything is heavily template based. We can just click on a template like that, and there we are. All of these elements can now be customized. That could be worst, for example. And we also have a range of tools available to add to the image. We've got various elements we can add. We can add text with a reasonable level of control, and there's lots and lots of presets again. There's what they call branding. We can upload files, and there's various drawing tools. Although, as we can see, Canva really is absolutely nothing like Photoshop, although it does provide a massive opportunities to very easily create things that can look pretty cool. And we could also import existing files. Let's just go back and do that. Let's import a file there. Let's pick up the picture of a bee we had earlier, like that. There it is. And we can now edit the photo if we wish. Here we are. And again, there are various filters and templates available, or we can use more traditional adjustments. We've got here things like changing the color temperature. We can change the brightness, contrast, things like that. And when we've done that, we can then use the image in design if we wish. Here we go, where we could add things to it. We go down, for example, to text, and from here go down and maybe take one of the presets. For example, we could take hello, how are you, drop that on the image. There we are, we've created something exciting in Canva. When it comes to saving our work, this is accessed under Share. We go to Share there, scroll down, and we go to Download, where we find a range of output formats, JPEG, PNG, and PDF, as we saw previously in Pixlr, but also here in the Pro version, Canva can output an SVG, a structured vector graphics format, and because you can create all kinds of designs, there are also options for outputting MP4 video and GIFs, and even in some circumstances, PowerPoint presentations. This said, there is no opportunity to output a PSD, a Photoshop document file. This said, we can import Photoshop files, so let's just do that. Let's get rid of this. We'll just discard that, and we'll go to Create a Design and Import File, back to Pictures, and if I just click to look at all files, we can see our test PSD file, so let's bring it in. There we are, I think it's come in, although no, it hasn't yet, it's still loading. There we go, but if we open it up, and get rid of the feedback dialog, we can see it's worked a little bit better than Pixlr. It's kept the stroke around the elements, but it hasn't got the text right. So, as I said previously, Canva is not a direct online substitute for Photoshop. Next, I thought we'd take a look at Photopea, which is a fantastic online image editor available in free and paid versions, and you can use the free version without creating an account. And to do so, we just need to close down information at the top of the screen like that. I'll also press F11 to give us more room on the screen. And as we can see, we do have advertising in the free version, fair enough, over here on the right. I'll just blank that out, but otherwise the free version is completely functional. And I'll start out this demo by opening a file from our computer straight away. I want to open up the Photoshop test file, test PSD document like that, because as we can see, it works absolutely perfectly. If we remind ourselves what it looked like in Photoshop, like this, and then we come back to Photopea, it looks exactly the same. Everything works. The text works, the colorize works, the mask works, the stroke on the SSDs works. Everything is perfect. Even the layers that were hidden in the file have come across, which they didn't in Pixlr and Canva. They're still here if we wanted to add those back in. We can definitely say that Photopea is a true online alternative to Photoshop. And indeed, personally, over the past few months when I've been away from home quite a bit, I've not been able to use a machine with Photoshop on it, I've been using Photopea to create elements for my videos, and it's worked absolutely perfectly. And indeed, if we look at the menu here, we'll see this looks just like Photoshop. If you're a Photoshop user, you'll be going, wow, we've got the same things available online. If we look at the toolbar here again, this is very much like a Photoshop toolbar, all the same sort of tools available. This really is fantastic. I can't speak high enough about this program, and do be aware, I've got absolutely nothing to do with the publishers. Now, one of the reasons this works so well is that all the processing takes place locally. And to prove that, I'm going to do this. There we go. What I've just done is to remove our network cable. You'll see we're no longer online. But Photopea is still running. And so what I'm going to do is to go File and Open. Let's open up our picture of a bee, like that. Comes in fine. Let's do something to it. What we're going to do, image. Let's do something simple. Let's do a photo filter, like that. We could adjust this, but actually let's leave it where it was, like that. And then let's also save the file. If we want to save files here, we can save as Photoshop document. We can save to the online facilities if we wish to, but we can also export in lots and lots of formats. Indeed, lots and lots and lots of formats. Let's save it as, for example, a PNG like that. And we'll just save the file back to pictures. There we go. And if I now flick across to that folder, we can see there's our saved picture. There we are. We did all of this whilst our computer was offline. So if you're one of these people who doesn't like to use cloud software because all your data is uploaded to a third-party provider, it isn't with Photopea. Final thing to note here is that if you click on Account, which of course we can't do because I'm offline, let's just put my network cable back in. There we go. I should now be able to click on Account. We can. You can see we can go to a premium version. It costs from $5 a month, which gives us a bit of online space, no adverts, various credits for AI functionality. And if we click on Go Premium, we can see the options, which range from $8 for 30 days up to $50 for 365 days. And so there we are, Photopea, a fantastic application that works perfectly with PSD files. Now, you may be wondering, do Adobe themselves make any online Photoshop alternatives? And the answer is yes, they have two of them. The first of which is Adobe Express, which is free to use providing you create an account, although you don't have to give Adobe any payment details when you create that account. So let's have a go with this. Let's click on the Start from Your Content and we'll upload a picture. Let's upload again our bee. Got two versions of the bee now. Let's take the original bee like that and load it in, and we'll create new and keep the original aspect ratio. There we go. And I'll press F11 to give us a bit more space on the screen. And if you haven't guessed already, Adobe Express is very much like Canva. We have various templates across here on the left. We can add a text with, again, lots and lots of presets. We've got various elements we can add. And also, if we click on the image itself, we can make various changes. We can add effects, lots of wacky things available here if you want that kind of stuff. But we've also got the normal kinds of adjustments down here. We can do saturation, we can do sharpening, we can change brightness, shadows like that, all that kind of thing. And if you're wondering, how does Adobe Express handle our PSD test file? Let's try that. Let's go back here and start from your content again and load in our test PSD document. Here we go. Unlike in Photopea, this clearly is being uploaded online, so we'll speed on through. And there we go. It's been converted, which is a little bit scary, but we'll open it up like that. And it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. For a start, it's got rid of the hidden layers. If we wanted those, they've gone. And the text, although it showed fine in the preview, is in the wrong place, isn't it? We have to move it down again a bit like that, put it where it needs to be, and it's now also the wrong color. We can presumably make it the right color again, something like that, but we really shouldn't have to do this. And to be honest, like Canva, Adobe Express isn't really a Photoshop alternative. But I did want to show it you before we move on to our second online Adobe application. Greetings! Here we have our final application, which is Adobe's Photoshop on the web. Sadly, this is only available as part of a standard Photoshop or wider Creative Cloud subscription, and currently Photoshop costs $22.99 a month or $19.99 a month as part of the photography plan. But of course, this is the price for both a full local version of Photoshop as well as this online version. Oh, and there is a 7-day free trial, but this does require payment details to be supplied. If we click on Create, we can of course create a new image, but let's go straight to loading in our test PSD file, like that. There it is, and open it up. Very exciting. And guess what? This is going to work perfectly. Hardly a surprise. We are, after all, running the online version of Photoshop here. All of our layers have come across, both visible and hidden. The text is correct, the stroke is correct. Everything's working just fine. And indeed, across on the left of the screen, we've got a toolbar which looks pretty familiar if you're a Photoshop user. And also, if we look to the hamburger menu here, we have what Adobe describe as access to Photoshop's most commonly used image editing features. This said, if we go across to the full version of Photoshop, I've got it running over here, we do see it looks a little bit different. For a start, we have a top menu here in the full version of Photoshop. We don't have that in the online version. And also, if we go across, for example, to a layer over here and right-click it, we can open up the blending options panel to control things like the stroke effect that's been applied. However, if we go back to the online version and we right-click the same layer, you'll discover we can't open the blending options panel. And we can have the effects for the stroke, as we can see that is there, and that's added here using this little effects control rather than blending options. And this is all fine, this works very well, except for the fact that if we go across to Photopea, which I've got open over here, and if I go over here and right-click a layer, we can open a blending options panel. And indeed, this is far more like Photoshop Photopea than Photoshop Online. This is a Photopea. Let's go across to Photoshop itself. This is a Photoshop, back to Photopea. Photoshop, very similar, but now I'll go across to Photoshop Online, and it is somewhat different. And I personally cannot understand why Photopea provide a better online version of a standard Photoshop interface than Adobe. And this is why, as you may have noticed, if I go across to Photopea, I've now subscribed to this service. I've got rid of the advertising down the edge, so that I can now work with images, including PSD files, on any computer, including those running Chrome OS and Linux. All of the applications we've looked at in this video offer useful tools for editing images online. However, for me personally, as a long-time Photoshop user, it is Photopea that is the standout application in terms of both price and functionality, and it's therefore going to be Photopea I'll be using on computers in the future that don't or cannot have Photoshop installed. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.